So the old school Resident Evil games launched earlier this year on GOG, but is it really worth getting them with the HD remasters? The short answer is yeah. So when I first launched Resident Evil, I was kind of blown away. I'd never played the games before, so it was a bit of a surprise for me, especially considering I'd kind of largely kept away from Resident Evil materials. So to see this kind of quirky B film unfold in front of my eyes was just like it was so much fun. It was quirky. It was something I kind of wish modern films would do again, having more vague enemies, opponents, and villains. Now, I know, like, the game later on kind of, shows them, but early on, it kind of sets this really wacky tone. And I know they're probably trying to go for more serious stuff on the more modern one, but I really like this style. So playing the game is pretty decent, actually. It runs really well from the GOG launcher, without any hiccups. It is kind of controller compatible. It doesn't work really well with my current controller, the controller I brought with me, which is why I'm wearing this. I'm not at home right now. I did try to change the buttons for the controller in-game to see if it would work, at least with my controller, and the answer was no. Again, with a proper Xbox controller, that might be different. Mine's like some cheap Chinese crap. But, with a proper mainland one, you might be able to get it to work. But keyboard was fine. In fact, when I went to the HD version, I changed all the controls to the controls I set for Resident Evil, the old version. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So diving in, it is very retro horror action survival thing. Like, it's slower than a typical modern game, which is fine. I found it fairly easy to navigate. The camera angles weren't always the best, but I found it fairly easy to navigate. I found what I needed. I found extra stuff. I found, other characters pretty quickly, and didn't really have any trouble with it at all. I did die, but, that's from experimenting with combat. Combat sucks. It also sucks in HD, but I'm okay with that, because it's not necessarily about the combat. It's about figuring out how to survive that interaction, which I think is something I want to get more into in regards to games, because I was a little bit frustrated that I couldn't properly engage with them, especially in the HD version. But it makes sense. But they are a little bit too clingy, and I would argue that they are a little bit more clingy in the OG Resident Evil than they are at the HD. So hopping into the HD version, again, I changed the controls because the controls that they gave it, I don't know why. I had the same issue with Tomb Raider, that the modern controls are just awful. They handle so poorly, and you get all confused and disorientated because the directions stay the same, but the camera angles change. So you can you press back towards you most of the time, and then as soon as the camera angle changes from you walking towards, I'm walking towards you, to a side profile, you have to change the button that you press in order to walk that direction, which is really freaking annoying. Now, you can customize the controls. Again, I set it to the old school controls with some minor customization, mainly getting rid of the mouse input, just because I find that having the mouse on the screen really annoying. and unnecessary, and I don't know why they don't automatically get rid of it. It was also really annoying to set custom controls. It took me a stupid amount of time to get it working properly on the HD version, which wasn't an issue at all on the old school. So they changed up the mansion a little bit, to keep things fresh for old school players, I guess. But this made it worse, in my opinion. Again, with the worst camera angles, ultimately, I wound up wandering around way more in the HD version than the old school one, which felt like really, really unnecessary padding. It just didn't feel good. I got stuck. Even though I'd easily found a way through in the old one, that path isn't as viable anymore. You have to go a different way. Or at least if you are going the same direction, it's harder to tell that you're going the same direction. They give you less supplies in the HD remake, which is really annoying, because they don't start you off living it up. It is survival horror, but they basically start you off with nothing except for your knife. I think overall, if I was to play either of the two, just from my first initial attempts, I think I would have more fun playing the OG version than the new one. Again, that could be, that's a PlayStation 1 era game, and I like that style. But it's more than style. It's actually how it handles. I prefer how it handles better. Yeah, the graphics aren't as good, but I prefer how you interact with the enemies a little bit better. The controls felt off and unresponsive a bit on the HD remake. And I didn't do it on controller, just, on the HD remake, just to make it a one-to-one comparison with the old school, so maybe that will change my opinion a little bit. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Check out my last video on the Star Wars Battlefront collection. Man, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on my continued Halloween coverage. Bye.